Partly directing for me is trying to create that environment, not just for the actors, but also for all the key department heads in the production.
For 50 years, Ron Howard seemed perfect. The all-American boy from Mayberry who became Hollywood royalty. But in his latest interview, he revealed the dark hiding behind the smile. The devastating choice he made in 1991 that haunts him still. The family member he almost lost to addiction while he was winning awards. And the moment on set when his body gave out, Ron's confession about what really happened during those missing months will break your heart. Ronald William Howard was born on March 1, 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma. And from the moment he opened his eyes, the room already spoke in dialogue. His father, Rance Howard, had adopted Howard as his stage name back in 1948 before joining the Air Force. His mother, Jean Spiegel, trained as an actress and married Rance in 1949 in Winchester, Kentucky. When Ron came along, Rance was still in uniform, balancing military life with screen dreams. But even before Ron learned to talk, he was already on film. Just 18 months old, he made his screen debut in a western called Frontier Woman. Filmed between late 1955 and early 1956. That set wasn't just his first job. It was the start of a life where childhood and camera marks blurred into one. While other toddlers learned to walk, Ron was learning where to stand under the lights. As television moved west, the Howards packed up and left Oklahoma behind. Rance drove the family straight to California, not for sunshine, but for proximity. He wasn't chasing glamour. He was betting everything on being near the new center of TV. Ron was just a toddler, but that move put him next to producers, writers, and sets before he ever saw a school desk. He was already working on Playhouse 90 before grade school. And by the time his brother Clint was born on April 20, 1959 in Burbank, the family's plan was working. Their earnings were managed in-house. No studio guardians, no outsiders, just a father carefully balancing his own acting roles with being the one-man support crew for his son. Rance took more than 140 film jobs and 177 TV appearances, not to chase fame, but to stay close to Ron's world and keep things moving. Then came October 3 Road 1960. Ron was 6. That night, America met Opie Taylor for the first time on The Andy Griffith Show. On paper, Ron was just another child actor credited as Ronnie Howard. But the connection was different. On set, something deeper happened. Rance didn't just drop his son off. He challenged the writers. After a nearly read-through, he told the producers the show's father-son scenes felt fake. Andy Griffith listened. They shook hands on something real. Andy and Opie's relationship would mirror Ron and Rance. That handshake built the show's soul. Over the years, Rance even guest-starred 5 times, staying close while Ron handled scripts and schedules most grown-ups would buckle under. For 8 seasons through 1968, Ron didn't just grow up. He lived inside a television childhood shaped by love, work, and adult expectations dressed in small-town stories. Their home in Burbank wasn't some star palace. Ron went to Robert Louis Stevenson Elementary, then David Starr Jordan Junior High, and later John Burroughs High School. The family ate meatloaf and fish sticks and saved money like actors who knew it could all end tomorrow. Scripts were piled near the dinner table, but Rance and Jean kept rules. No hired guardians, no stage parent chaos. Ron played park league sports when he wasn't memorizing lines. Clint joined their industry, too, quietly building a career with over 200 acting credits. They were brothers, but also co-workers, learning early what it meant to punch a clock with cameras. Ron's way of working didn't come from child star instinct. It came from training. Rance taught him how to listen, how to pause, how to respond like a person, not a performer. When Ron landed the role of Opie, it was because he didn't act like a kid actor. He just acted. Producer Sheldon Leonard noticed right away. He said Ron didn't try to be cute. He just told the truth. That's what Rance drilled into him. Be truthful, not cute. Even at 6, it showed Ron's early pay was in the low hundreds of dollars per episode, but it climbed as the show became a hit. He was still losing baby teeth when fans stopped him in Burbank asking for autographs. But while his face was on screen, his childhood was quietly slipping away. One of the most unforgettable moments came in 1963 Season 4, Episode 1, Opie, the Birdman. 9-year-old Ron filmed a scene where Opie raises orphaned baby birds after accidentally killing their mother. There were no dramatic tricks. He just stood there breathing, blinking, letting real emotion lead. Director Bob Sweeney barely needed retakes. Andy Griffith called it adult-level timing. Ron used substitution. If the scene called for sadness, he thought of something that actually hurt, then he let it go when the camera stopped. That wasn't just talent. It was control most kids never have. But even with love on set, Ron felt alone. Heckled those years a golden cage. Safe but sealed. On set, he had a tiny schoolroom near stage 40 at Desalukina. California law said 3 hours of school, 8 hours total per day. A welfare worker stayed nearby, but Ron didn't have real classmates. He did math while Grips rolled dollies. At lunch, he sat with his dad or the prop guy. Andy would play guitar. Don Knotts told clean jokes. They tried to make it feel normal. But Ron missed sandlot baseball and neighborhood bike rides. He didn't complain, but he felt it. In 1962, the Music Man brought a new kind of pressure. He was 8 years old and cast as Winthrop Peru in a big-budget musical. He was tone-deaf. He had 2 left feet. Music conductor Ray Hindorf spent hours coaching him through the song Gary, Indiana. Ron panicked during the soft shoe routine and whispered to Shirley Jones, "I can't do it, Shirley. I can't do it." She helped him calm down. The crew shot him from the knees up and added tap sounds later, but it worked. His shy, sweet performance helped make the film one of biggest hits of 1962. What no one saw was how hard he'd fought behind the scenes. Between takes, Ron memoized not just his lines, but Shirley Jones's, too. He played with dolls and acted out full scenes, directing miniature actors through their marks and lines. To others, it looked like play. To Shirley, it looked like a director in the making. Rance had already started writing scripts for the Flintstones and other shows. He taught Ron how to break down a scene. They sighed no. Too political, too risky for advertisers. So the compromise came in glances, Richie reading newspapers about the war in the background. A passing comment about deferments. Ron felt stifled. Halliter told TV Guide that being a happy teenager when the world wasn't happy anymore made him feel like he couldn't breathe. That frustration planted something inside him. He didn't just want to act. He wanted control. He wanted to direct. In 1976, Fonza was everywhere. Leather jackets were selling, posters, toys, lunchboxes, all adding up to $50 million in merchandise. ABC tried to rename the show Fonzia's Happy Days. Ron had seen this kind of thing before. His father, Rance, had fought for billing rights his entire career. So Ron stood up. He was making $15,000 per episode, but he told them he'd walk. He gave them 48 hours to keep the title the way it was. If they didn't, they'd lose him, and they risked a $500,000 contract breach lawsuit. Gary Marshall sided with him. The show wasn't just about Fonza, it was about a family. ABC backed down halfway. The name stayed, but Fonza got top billing in the credits. It was a silent win. Then in October 1977, Ron got his shot. He directed Season 5, Episode 5, A Date with Fonza. The budget was thin, just $10,000. 32 scenes, 3 days. He showed up with a shot list so detailed the crew called it Spielberg level. One scene followed Fonza through Arnold's diner in a 90-second tracking shot. Normally, that would take hours. Ron nailed it in 2 takes, saving $3,000. Ratings jumped by 12%. That meant 31 million people watched. ABC gave him 2 more episodes to direct and paid him $2,500 extra per episode on top of his acting fee. Henry Winkler later said Ron made him uncomfortable in the best way. He forced real emotion instead of just catchphrases. While all this was happening, something else was growing. In 1976, Ron acted in Eat My Dust, a cheap teen crash movie from Roger Corman. But it wasn't just for fun. He had made a deal that he'd act only if Corman let him direct the next one. That film was Grand Theft Auto, released in 1977. Ron co-wrote it with his dad, Rance. The budget was $602,000, but the film made $15 million. That's a 400% return. They destroyed 70 cars on camera, including a $40,000 Rolls-Royce, 3 Cadillacs, and 7 police cars. Ron didn't wait for permits. He shot on real roads near Victorville. The cameras shook, the cars flipped, the chaos was real. He even used his mom, his brother Clint, and Happy Days castmate Marion Ross in the movie. The film hit theaters on June 16, 1977, and suddenly, no one was laughing at the redhead from Mayberry anymore. Ron was only 21 when he married Cheryl Alley on June 7, 1975. They were high school sweethearts. He proposed on a couch at his parents' house. Henry Winkler was his best man. Andy Griffith and Tom Bosley were there, too. When Cheryl went into labor with their first child, Ron was on set. He dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. Years later, he said it clearly. Cheryl was the real story. She always had been. While he filmed, wrote, and directed, she was the one holding it all together. In 1982, Ron took a leap with Night Shift, a dark comedy set in a morgue. The story was wild. Two guys running a prostitution ring out of a New York City morgue. It starred Henry Winkler and introduced Michael Keaton in his first major role. The budget was $8 million. It earned $21 million. Keaton recorded ideas into a tape recorder, danced around with a Walkman, and yelled, "Is this a great country or hat?" Test audiences thought it was too raunchy. The MPA got nervous, but it worked. Winkler got a Golden Globe nomination. Keaton exploded onto the scene. The film was bold and it proved Ron could make studio pictures that didn't play it safe. Then came Splash in 1984. Ron directed Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah in a love story about a man and a mermaid. It was Disney's first touchstone release. Budget between $8 million and $11 million. Gross, $69.8 million. The mermaid tail weighed 35 pounds and took hours to attach. Daryl Hannah shot all the underwater scenes herself. No stunt double. She swam better than the professionals. Ron and producer Brian Grazer were stunned. At first, the film had a sad ending. Madison returns to the ocean. Alan stays on land. But during test screenings, every wife in the room hated it, so they changed it. Alan dives in after her, love wins. The critics approved. It scored 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was nominated for an Oscar. Tom Hanks became a star. And for Ron, it was confirmation. He wasn't just good. He could lead the box office. After Splash, Ron and Brian Grazer co-founded Imagine Entertainment in November 1985. That IT was serious from the start. They merged their companies and took Imagine public the next year. TriStar Pictures signed a deal. So did Showtime and the Movie Channel. Their first offerings were TV movies, theatrical films, and eventually shows like Sports Night. Their offices in Century City got a $4.5 million makeover in 1998. People whispered about the spending, but the numbers spoke louder. Over 43 Oscar nominations and 198 Emmys across decades. Imagine Films would gross more than $15 billion worldwide. In 1995, Apollo 13 changed everything again. Ron directed it on a $52 million budget. They bought actual NASA mission control panels, some for just $1, from government surplus. They filmed 612 zero-gravity scenes aboard the Vomit Comet, each lasting 23 seconds. That meant 10 days of parabolic flight dives. The explosion scene with Ed Harris had to be shot 12 times. It cost $340,000. One test went wrong and singed Harris's eyebrows. Ron refused to fake it. The switch positions, the radio chatter, every blinking light. It had to be right. The movie made $355 million. Worldwide. It was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and won 2, but getting there nearly killed him. Ron worked 18-hour days for 90 straight days. Hesitant on NASA briefings, watched every reel, led night rehearsals. On day 90 he collapsed. Dehydration, hypertension. The set went quiet. Production stopped for 36 hours. When he returned, the crew wore shirts that said Mission Control. That IT wasn't just a movie anymore. It was proof. Ron had buried Opie Taylor. Had didn't need to prove it again. Then he made a mistake. EDTV, released in 1999, cost $80 million. It made $50 million total. Ron had turned down Castaway for it. It came out a month after The Truman Show, which told the same story, but better. Critics said it felt like a warning about media while being part of the problem. It cost Imagine $30 million in losses. But Ron learned, he listened, and he moved forward. By 1999, Imagine had 23 projects in development. Universal gave them funding for 6 films per year, each with a $60 million cap. Ron didn't direct all of them, but his name was on everyone. The offices were busy. The staff had grown to 140 people. Their output in the 1990s alone had earned $2.3 billion. In 2001, Ron Howard stood behind the camera directing A Beautiful Mind with a $58 million budget and something different in mind. He wanted to make the audience feel what John Nash felt. Not through dizzying effects or strange filters, but through silence, through trust. He filmed Nash's hallucinations with no visual cues, no shimmering edits, no warning. The characters Charles Herman and William Parcher felt real because to Nash they were. And Ron wanted the viewers to discover the truth at the same time Nash did. Most scenes were shot in chronological order, 90% of the entire film unfolding just as Nash lived it. Ron returned to Princeton 3 separate times to get it right. The results were staggering. On March 24, 2002, he won the Oscar for Best Director. But the truth hiding beneath the